When I was sick, no one even picked up the phone. Everyone said, "Handle your own problems." I quietly recovered and became strong. Years later, when those same people needed my support, I didn't take revenge by shouting. I simply said no. I was sitting on a bench outside the emergency room, my jacket slipping off my shoulders, and my phone kept vibrating, but no new name appeared on the screen. I called my mother. Voicemail. I texted my father. "We'll talk later." Called my sister. She said, "I have my own problems, please not right now." When the nurse called my name, I stood up alone. In that moment, I understood that this illness wasn't only physical. The diagnosis wasn't complicated, but it was expensive. A long course of treatment, months of medication, and bills that arrive in envelopes and make your heartbeat speed up. My insurance was weak. My job was contract-based. I asked, "Is there any other option?" The woman at the counter looked at me with sympathy and said softly, "We can set up a payment plan." There was humanity in her voice, something I hadn't heard from my family that day. When I returned to my small apartment, the quiet came with me. There was a container of soup in the fridge. I took my medication, lay down on the bed, and made a promise to myself that I wouldn't make noise. If I had to get better alone, then I would. I learned how to go to the clinic after work, memorized bus schedules, and counted the days when my body cooperated even a little. I didn't ask anyone for help because I had already learned what the answer would be when I did. Slowly I began to improve. Not fearless, careful. I made a budget, cut out anything unnecessary. One day my neighbor, Mrs. Harper, saw me sitting on the stairs and asked, "Do you want some coffee?" He came by once a week just to check in. It wasn't a miracle, just the presence of an ordinary human being. I went back to work, then moved into a better role. I studied at night, earned a certification, and learned to listen to my body instead of fighting it. Years passed. I watched myself heal, not just in health but in judgment. I used my phone less. I set boundaries. I stopped attending family gatherings without making excuses. I simply said, "I can't come." And that was the truth. During those years, life stayed very American in its ordinariness. Rent went up. Gas prices changed. I switched insurance plans twice. Some months were tight, others were manageable. I learned which grocery store had the best discounts and which clinic would work with me if a bill came in higher than expected. I kept a folder with paperwork, medical statements, payment plans, notes I took during appointments, because I had learned the hard way that no one else was keeping track for me. This wasn't a heroic transformation. It was quiet discipline repeated every day. I also learned what silence could do. Silence gave me space to think before reacting. It taught me that not every call deserved an answer and not every emergency belonged to me. I stopped explaining myself to people who weren't listening. That included my family. When my sister sent casual messages, I replied politely but briefly. When my parents stayed quiet, I didn't chase the silence. I focused on what was in front of me: work, health, the small routines that kept me steady. Then one day the phone rang. This time I recognized the number. My mother's voice was shaking. "Your father needs surgery. We need help." Behind her words was that familiar expectation, as if I would automatically step in, the way I always had in their minds. I took a breath. I remembered that night on the bench when no one answered my calls. "What's going on?" I asked calmly. They told me everything: job loss, insurance gone, bills piling up. I listened without interrupting, without looking away. When she stopped, I said, "I'm sorry. That's really hard." And it was true. But I didn't say the sentence she was waiting for. "So, what can you do?" my mother asked. I looked at the folder on my table. My own bills, my own plans, the life I had carefully built. "I can't give money," I said. My voice was gentle, the decision firm. "But I can give you the numbers that helped me. Clinics, assistance programs, payment plans. I can sit with you and help fill out forms." There was silence. I heard my father coughing in the background. Then my mother said, "We never treated you like that." I closed my eyes. "You did. And I'm not yelling. I'm just stating my boundary." When the call ended, my hands shook slightly. It wasn't easy. Revenge isn't dramatic in real life. It's slow, clean, and exhausting. I opened the window. Outside it was raining, the kind of soft rain that washes a city without making a show of it. In the weeks that followed, I did exactly what I said I would. I sent links, booked appointments, explained paperwork. I didn't put my life on hold. I didn't skip work or neglect my health. I met Mrs. Harper for coffee and she said, "Protecting yourself isn't selfish." I nodded. Maybe that was the lesson my illness had given me. A few months later, my mother called again. This time her voice didn't carry that old demand. "We're managing," she said. "What you shared helped." I said, "I'm glad," and felt something loosen inside my chest. I hung up the phone and looked around my apartment. It wasn't big, but it was mine. My health wasn't perfect, but it was stable. I had learned the value of my body, my time, and my quiet. That night I went to sleep early. No noise. No shouting. That was the revenge. Knowing that I was no longer the person sitting on a bench waiting for the phone to be answered. I had learned how to hold myself up. And sometimes that is enough. If this story moved you, please support the channel by liking this video and subscribing for more real human stories. Your support helps these voices reach others who need them. Thank you for watching, for listening, and for being part of this growing community. Your kindness truly matters more here.